Good morning, everyone, and welcome. Welcome to this momentous event. And this is indeed a momentous event. This is the first time Australia's had an event with federal parliamentarians about hepatitis B. My name's Carrie Fowlie and I'm the CEO of the national peak body Hepatitis Australia. 220,000 people in Australia are living with hepatitis B. Hepatitis B is the most common and the most burdensome bloodborne virus in Australia and in the world, with 300 million people affected globally and 115 million people in our region. Viral hepatitis is the main cause of liver cancer in Australians and the fastest growing cause of cancer deaths. Australia has committed and shown fantastic leadership in wanting to eliminate hepatitis B by 2030. This commitment is reflected in the National Hepatitis B strategy endorsed by all Australian health ministers and through Australia's adoption of the global viral hepatitis strategies. The communities affected by hepatitis B are culturally, socially and geographically diverse and dispersed. The National Hepatitis B strategy is premised on partnership, and today's event brings this partnership principle to life and to action. People affected by hepatitis B are central to an effective national response. It's through partnership with affected communities that we have gained understanding and driven the success to date. Australia has indeed seen some success towards some areas of viral hepatitis elimination. For example, in 5 years, the number of people living with hepatitis C in Australia has halved, an achievement that was unimaginable not long ago. Australia has not yet seen the same success in hepatitis B, and in some cases we are decades behind our targets. This is in part because national hepatitis B policy is newer. It's had less investment and doesn't have a sufficient community workforce. We do, however, have an effective vaccine, very strong vaccination rates, particularly amongst Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander communities, and there have also been exciting developments towards a cure. So just imagine where we could be a decade from now. Today, hepatitis B prevalence and outcomes are not geographically equal. Treatment uptake is lowest in rural and remote regions, highlighting challenges in service delivery within regional contexts. Community workforces have a particular role to play, for example, in regional contexts where access to specialist services are limited and local responses are preferred. Anecdotally, the total hepatitis B specific community workforce is estimated to be less than 20. That's right, less than 20 in the entire country. However, where a hepatitis B community workforce in place, incredible progress has been made, including getting on track to meet our elimination targets. National action on hepatitis B has profound public health, societal and economic benefits. Australia could be the first country in the world to achieve the elimination targets. We have key tools, partnerships, and the things we need to get there, but concerted effort must be accelerated for the next 8 years to achieve elimination by 2030. Now is the right time in the epidemic to increase action and make elimination Australia's next big public and preventative health success. Today we will hear different perspectives on how we can strengthen our work together to achieve our goal. The different perspectives include lived experience, clinical, research, community, policy, and parliamentary. All of these assets are needed to eliminate hepatitis by 2030. Now to begin our event, please welcome Ngunnawal Elder Selina Walker to welcome us to country.
Yuma, Kalakanya Jelena Walker, Darawa Nuna Darawa Nunawu. Hello, my name is Selina Walker and this is Ngunnawal Country. I'd like to first start by acknowledging my elders, the Ngunnawal elders, and pay respects to elders past, present and future. I'd also like to acknowledge any other Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander people that have joined us here. Welcome my brothers, sisters, aunts and uncles. And I'd like to extend that to all our non-Indigenous friends that have joined us. Welcome. The Ngunnawal community are the traditional custodians of Canberra and the region. You may not be aware that the Ngunnawal Nation is made up of several family groups and not just individuals who represent this country. Therefore, as a community, we have an elected body known as the United Ngunnawal Elders Council to represent us, along with the Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander elected body of the ACT. It is important for you to understand and acknowledge, for our identity is a collective identity. There are other Indigenous and non-Indigenous people from around the nation, the country and the world who have come to live on Ngunnawal land. I'd like to acknowledge and welcome you all. Yumalandi Yunanga Yerebu Yangu, which means you may leave footprints on our land now, or in other words, welcome to country.
Wonderful. Thank you, Selena. Last year, the Honourable Greg Hunt, the Minister for Health, re-established the Ministerial Advisory Council on Bloodborne Viruses and STIs. At its first roundtable, it was held in March 2021, and the very first recommendation from the Council was to co-design a mechanism to elevate the voices and influence of people impacted by hepatitis B in national policy, development, monitoring, implementation and evaluation. I am honoured right now to introduce Lien Tran, who not only is a World Hepatitis Alliance board member, but also a member of a leadership group, alongside Nafisa Youssef and Thomas Tu, who are working with Hepatitis Australia to action that Ministerial Advisory Council recommendation and establish Australia's first national policy forum for people with lived experience of hepatitis B. And today's event is an outcome of that work. Welcome, Lien.
Thank you very much, Carrie. And hello, everyone. My name is Lien Tran. I'm a mother, a researcher, a community advocate, and a worker in viral hepatitis in Australia and globally. I'm from Vietnam, and I live with hepatitis B. My grandmother died of liver cancer when I was 6. My mother lives with hepatitis B. I live with hepatitis B. My daughters are hepatitis B free. My daughters are hepatitis B free. This sentence seems really simple, but actually I could not say that after many years after they were born. Ever since I was pregnant with the first child, the fear of transmitting the disease to them was always there. It was my motivation to care about my Hep B, although I had no symptoms at all. It was to prevent the transmission to them. I followed the doctor's advice and was logically confident that they were fine. However, I never dared to test them until the older child was 5. My logical thoughts and professional thinking could not win the emotions. What if they were among the unlucky ones and still got it from me? What if I did give them the cancer-causing disease and so on? But anyway, they are both hepatitis B free, and I can say it now. At times, I think of hepatitis B as our family heritage and pleased that it was broken at my generation. I was diagnosed with hepatitis B in early 2000s in Vietnam. The diagnosis took away my opportunity to study in Europe, as the doctor who diagnosed me told me that with hepatitis B, I was not allowed to go overseas. Without a doubt, I blindly trusted him as a superior and declined the scholarship that I had been awarded earlier for the course. I actually thought I would die soon, as the only thing I knew then about hepatitis was something related to the liver. Hepatitis B is red liver inflammation type B in Vietnamese. And that because my grandmother died of liver cancer, so I must have had exactly that same thing. Anyway, so my life path changed because of that diagnosis, going through the fear and the devastated stages, and also sometimes ignorance because of the non-symptomatic nature of it. I'm now proud that I have been publicly speaking about my condition, my experiences, and my journey to break down the barriers for people living with hepatitis. Each time I speak up in front of people, either at meetings, conferences, or on media, or like here, I feel empowered and being listened and seeing the impact. And yeah, I'm also pleased that my kids are hepatitis B free. I'm even more pleased that we now can talk about hepatitis B in the family, something that we did not do before. It is with great thanks and happiness for me to finally realize that I felt less stigmatized and less guilty of living with hepatitis B. So now, as a proud wife, a mother of 2, and now being inspired to work for the cause here in Australia and globally, I want to show people living with hepatitis B that we can still live a fulfilling life despite the diagnosis. We are not defined by, and we are much more than that diagnosis. And we can be the center and also the ones who inform hepatitis B responses anywhere. Thank you.
Wonderful. Thank you so much, Lien. And as you say, it's so important to break the silence of hepatitis B and for affected communities to have conversations about hepatitis B with people from within their communities and people that they love and trust. Our next presentation is an example of what can be achieved when affected communities and the community workforce are activated and resourced to respond to hepatitis B. Please welcome the Hep B Pass team from the Northern Territory, which is an extraordinary partnership that has centred the community to achieve hepatitis elimination success.
Hello, my name is Rachel Minipini Woody. I'm doing video recording, a voice recording in my language TV about hepatitis B, and so that I can show my TV people on how to look after themselves and how to look after their liver. Mana.
Hello, my name is Gillespie. I'm from Lien Community Daily in the Northern Territory. I am a registered Aboriginal health practitioner. We are working closely with the doctors and nurses following up on Hep B. I have good educating clients and have had the opportunity to educate other Aboriginal health practitioners and community workers in other communities. When we have clients, Hep B clients, whether it's male or female, I continue with them at the consultation with doctors from Tran by telehealth. As an Aboriginal health practitioner, my role is to do education sessions with our clients. We follow up blood, help them understand why it is important to look after your liver, making sure that they get to their appointments when they return. I actually sat with a client that had cancer, and I was with him in hospital the day of his surgery. I feel very strongly that we keep doing our work like this in language and in community. And with that client today, he was happy that he is cancer-free. I was able to explain to him that it was okay, and it was okay to have the procedure done rather than to leave it too long. And that way our clients have a very good understanding of what is happening to their body and to their health.
My name is Associate Professor Jane Davis, and I am so enormously proud to be part of Hep B Past. This true partnership is successfully demonstrating that you can eliminate hepatitis B and provide holistic care to those living with chronic hepatitis B when you work together with community. Using this participatory approach, we are now exceeding national targets in the Northern Territory for the over 30,000 Aboriginal people who are part of Hep B Past. We have 86% of people aware of their infection, 56% of people engaged in care, and 20% receiving antiviral therapy.
Wow. Thank you, Team Hep B Pass. Did you get shivers too? Imagine what we could do if we replicated the ingredients of that project in communities all across Australia. Our next speaker is Professor Ben Cowie from the WHO Collaborating Centre on Viral Hepatitis. Please welcome Ben.
Thank you so much, Carrie. And I've been asked to speak a little bit today about some of the challenges that we face in responding to hepatitis B, but also some of the opportunities. So as you mentioned at the start, around 0.9% or 222,000 Australians are living with chronic hepatitis B. But this doesn't reflect the variability in the prevalence of hepatitis B. We have a 5 times that prevalence amongst our Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander peoples. And when we look at Australians born in the Asia Pacific region, they have greater than 10 times the prevalence of non-Indigenous Australian born people. So there's some real inequities in the prevalence of hepatitis B across the country. And across our primary health networks, the prevalence of hepatitis B ranges between 0.3% to 1.8% of the population. Now, Australia quite rightly has been held up as an example of what can be achieved in the response to some bloodborne viruses. And we are held as being amongst the leading respondents globally to the challenge of HIV and to hepatitis C. However, our response to hepatitis B, as has been discussed, has not been commensurate with those achievements. When we look at the response to hepatitis B nationally, we only have 11% of Australians living with hepatitis B on treatment. Our national strategy target for this year is twice that, at 20%. And we still have 3/4 of Australians living with hepatitis B currently not receiving guideline-based care. We can do better. And the Hep B Pass story we just heard about shows how much better we can do with more than double the care uptake and treatment uptake than the national average. When we look at treatment uptakes across primary health networks in Australia, those disparities really come forward. So some of the lowest uptake PHNs for treatment for Hep B are 2% of people living with Hep B, up to 20% in the best performing regions of Australia. So by investing appropriately in responding to hepatitis B, including partnership with community, we can take those examples and transform the response to hepatitis B. At this point in time, we are not on track for either our 2022 or our 2030 global targets for hepatitis B in this country. While the treatment uptake is improving, it is still the case we will miss the 2030 targets by years, if not decades. And so we really do need to intensify these responses in the same way that we have invested in the HIV and hepatitis C response. We have the tools. Antivirals are a lot less expensive than they used to be. It's been estimated even when the treatments were more expensive, that appropriate management of hepatitis B is amongst the most cost-effective cancer prevention strategies that we as a country can invest in. And so by making those investments, we can transform the lives of Australians and show the same sort of global leadership that we have in our other BBV responses. So finally, community engagement, moving to community leadership of the response, and resourcing the community workforce are hallmarks of how we did make those achievements in HIV and hepatitis C. And by making the same sort of investment here and lifting that figure that Carrie said of 20 people working in hepatitis B community-wide in this country, we can transform the response here and take global leadership of the hepatitis B response. Thank you.
Fantastic. Thank you so much, Ben. And we do indeed have some critical policy opportunities in front of us right now. For example, the Australian Cancer Plan is under development, and we have some really exciting opportunities to elevate viral hepatitis as cancer prevention within that space. And I think it also highlights how critically important these dialogues are in terms of raising awareness to make sure that we do not leave people living with hepatitis B behind. And I also flagged that this year as well, we will be refreshing the national hepatitis B strategy across Australia. And this is also a critical opportunity for us to make sure we've got the right policy levers in place, sufficient investment and action to achieve our goals. Our next speaker, so representing the Minister for Health and the Australian Government, our next speaker, the Honourable David Gillespie MP, is the Minister for Regional Health. Prior to being a parliamentarian, Dr. Gillespie was a gastroenterologist. So he indeed knows the importance of viral hepatitis and action in this space. And we're so grateful for the positive and ongoing engagement with the Minister for Health and the Minister for Regional Health. We know this is a really busy and challenging time at Parliament right now. We deeply appreciate the commitment to overcome the challenges in this busy time. Unfortunately, the Minister's not able to be with us live right now, but has provided us with a recorded message. So please join me in listening to this message.
Hi, thanks for gathering today to discuss and raise awareness about this important topic. The Australian Government is committed to eliminating the transmission of viral hepatitis by 2030. We have enshrined these commitments in the national hepatitis strategies. Australia continues to be a world leader in the elimination of viral hepatitis, with the overall proportion of Australians who have hepatitis lower than any other comparable high-income country in our region. Our national hepatitis strategies are premised on partnership with the affected communities, Hepatitis Australia as the national peak, clinicians and research organisations. The third national hepatitis B strategy is currently being refreshed. The next strategy is anticipated to focus on workforce development and growth. Hepatitis Australia is a key stakeholder and well engaged in the strategy redevelopment process. People impacted by viral hepatitis are central to an effective national response. Our partnerships with affected communities give us a better understanding and connection with the diverse communities impacted by viral hepatitis. And these partnerships are what has helped us achieve our successes to date. Australia is on the path to eliminating viral hepatitis with the potential to be the first country in the world to achieve this. Thank you to everyone here today for the work that you do and your partnerships with the Australian Government as we work towards the goal of achieving elimination by 2030.
Thank you so much for that message, Minister. And we're also very grateful for the offer to meet in person at a later date following this event to continue this dialogue of how we can all work together to take advantage of the opportunities before us. So our success to date and our success going forward is underpinned by many ingredients, and a critical one has been bipartisanship. Not often and not often enough, the quiet achievements of bipartisanship are acknowledged. Engaging parliamentarians in viral hepatitis elimination is critical to achieving our goal. The Parliamentary Friends Group for Action on Bloodborne Virus has indeed been a friend. And we thank co-chairs Mr. Tim Wilson and Senator Louise Pratt for enabling dialogue and supporting action on viral hepatitis throughout this term of government. And we look forward to working closely with parliamentarians when the new Parliament convenes later in 2022, including forming a new Parliamentary Friends Group. Our next speaker, representing the Shadow Minister for Health and the opposition, is Jed Kearney, MP, Shadow Assistant Minister for Health. Prior to being a parliamentarian, Ms. Kearney was a nurse and active in growing and supporting workforces to improve community health. Please welcome Jed Kearney's office.
Yes, my apologies everyone. I am not Jed, I am her staffer. Jed has literally just had to run into the chamber. Her speaking spot got moved forward, so she sends her sincere apologies. But she did just want to pass on just her recommitment to the bipartisanship that has underpinned the response to hepatitis B, and just really encourage anyone who wanted to reach out and talk about how we could work together should we form government at the next election, particularly looking at community-led responses. Should be very, very happy to chat. But look, yeah, I do apologise for her having to run back, and perhaps she'll be back for the very last minute or so. But thank you all so much.
Hello everybody. I'm incredibly sorry that I wasn't able to stay for the entire conference. I got called away, as you might have heard. Those things happen in Parliament House. But I did want to take the opportunity to thank Hepatitis Australia for all the fabulous work you do and for reminding us that we can eliminate hepatitis B. There were so many great things talked about at the conference, I know, but one thing that leapt out at me was the importance of community-led solutions. We had seen this work so beautifully with AIDS, we knew it worked with COVID, and of course it can work with so many diseases, but of course specifically with hepatitis B. So thank you for highlighting that. It's very important that we make sure that community-led responses are the centre of any strategy and policy for the future. And an elected Labor government would make sure that that was the case. But thanks again for having me. It was really great to listen to the speakers that I heard, and again, I'm sorry I couldn't stay to address you properly. Thank you for all your hard work, and let's get this done.
Wonderful. Thank you very much, and we understand and appreciate that very much, and we will definitely be taking up that fabulous offer to catch up out of session to continue these conversations, because this is not a one-off. This is a long-term activity and engagement that we're all working on together. So I guess wrapping up and in closing for today, what an incredible opportunity we have before us. Today we've highlighted how important bipartisanship is. We've demonstrated partnership about how critical that is to achieve our goals. We've highlighted that we need to do catch-up effort and we need to invest further in the community workforce. We've showcased what can be achieved with collaborative, partnership-based, community-led responses. We've highlighted and we've talked about inequity and the importance of making sure that we leave no one behind. And we also commit as Hepatitis Australia to follow up with various members of Parliament and with the Australian government, including putting forward proposals about how we can push forward some of these ideas, particularly related to the community workforce. So finally, thank you all for coming today. Thank you to all the partners for this fantastic event. We indeed have encouraged momentum and mobilised action to make hepatitis B elimination Australia's next big public health and preventative health success. Thank you all for coming, and all the best.